Hey, my name is Chris Irwin. I want to talk to you today about a problem that I know faces many businesses out there. Hey, everybody, whether you have 2 employees, 50 employees, 400 employees, we all have the same challenges and dilemmas when it comes to the team who represents our dream, our baby, our independent company. It could be a beauty salon or a liquor store, a hardware store, or an HVAC company. Whatever company you own or you're managing, your biggest challenge is people, making sure they show up to work, making sure you don't get people who call out sick every Friday because it's Friday, they want a 3-day weekend, making sure people who you can trust with the keys when you go on vacation so you can relax with your family and not be stressed out because you've got the wrong people running your dream. Having those people as part of your team, finding them, and then developing them into the right employees to steer your ship. That's the key to every business, no matter how big. My name is Chris Irwin. I've been doing this for 30 years, not staffing YouTube videos, as you could tell. This is actually the first one. What I've been doing is building teams. I worked for a DSD company for 30 years, a food and beverage company. I was a district manager where I hired dozens and dozens of employees. I worked my way through the ranks, became a zone business manager and a staffing and retention manager. My job was to find people, get them through the hiring process, separate fact from fiction, and then build teams and retain those people who represents you and your brand, right? Find the best talents, develop their skills, and give them long term success. That's what we all want, and that's the key to all businesses' success, the right people steering your ship. I want to help you find those people and achieve those dreams so that you can have a less stressful, a little bit less stressful, more relaxing company with the right focuses where your team believes in your dream and they're helping get to your goals. Where does it all start? It starts out with staffing, making sure we find the right people and understanding how do we identify those people. So once you identify you have a staffing need, how do I identify the people I'm looking for? What are the key factors, the key decision makers on that hiring process? I like to separate it into two different categories, right? So the first thing you want to do is separate the two categories. One is going to be the background, the resume, the information they give you before you even get into the resume, before you even get into interview process, making sure you're looking at that detailed stuff. It's going to have their last 3 or 4 jobs, their work history, maybe some references, maybe an attached resume attached in the upload, whether it's Indeed or Monsters or Lincoln, wherever you're getting this information from. There's many places to get it out there. You want to review that separately and make sure all that detailed information is scored on its own. It's a standalone before you even think about doing an interview, before you've even spoken to these people. You want to go through it and see what those experiences are. The other tier is the actual interview process. I think it's really important you don't get caught up too much in one or the other because that's where that trip factor is in the interview process. A lot of people go with that first instinct, gut instinct, right? Oh, this guy's got 8 years in a similar industry. He's going to be a rock star. We've got to hire this guy, right? Or this girl has been doing this at 2 different companies in the last 6 months. She must know what she's doing, right? Don't get caught up in your gut. Your gut lies. Rule number one when it comes to staffing and hiring, your gut lies. Don't listen to it. It's never going to be right. You want to separate that and score that. Then you want to do the interview process because some of the greatest candidates, some of the people who are going to be your best employees, your personal MVPs, are terrible at interviews. You've got to be able to read through the lines and understand what's going on. And you also have to be able to help get them through the interview to capture the most information. If you're like Sherlock Holmes and you're trying to identify, hey, what's the story here? What are the hidden gems? What are the hidden watchouts? How do I identify that? Simple process you can go through. So let's start with the backgrounds, right? We're going through that. We're looking for jobs. We're looking for skills. First thing we want to look at is how many jobs has this person had in the last 1 year. Don't go back 10 or 20 years. Go back 1 year. I always say three is the key number with an asterisk, right? So if somebody has had 3 jobs, let's say in fast food industry, and they worked at fast food restaurant one, fast food restaurant two, fast food restaurant three. So maybe they went from, hey, I was the fry guy at this restaurant. And then I worked at this Mexican restaurant over here and got Hispanic food, and I was in charge of tortillas and putting together the burritos. And then I had an opportunity to work at this other place, and I was in charge of the drive-through. This shows me a clear path, a progression, where they were trying to improve themselves. Maybe they were making a little bit more money, or maybe they just wanted more challenges in their career. But being in the same industry is a linear path. So I consider those one job. Even though it's 3 different employers in 1 year, that's job hopping with purpose. Job hopping with purpose doesn't scare me. It's a modern generation out there, and people job hop quite often. The key is for the watchouts. Hey, if I go from fry cook at A to fry cook at B to fry cook at C in 6 months, what was my motivation? What was my purpose? That's a watchout. So, multiple jobs in 1 year, okay, as long as there's a connection. Multiple jobs in 1 year with no linear connection, no purpose, that's a red flag. That's a warning that somebody you want to be watchful for and not score too highly, right? And then you also want to look at key lingo. I call it the teachable mindset. somebody who can learn, right? So I'm looking for someone who can learn because whatever I'm doing, even if I'm running a liquor store and I'm looking for a night manager, it's a beauty salon, I need someone to do a swing shift at one of the haircut places, whatever that skill set is, I need somebody who is teachable because I can teach, but you can't develop without teach. So they have to be able to learn. I know it sounds a little complicated, but think about it like this. If somebody is working as an electrician, they had to learn a lot of skills. If they were like an electrician apprentice, they had to learn a lot of skills. Well, what if you need an electrician apprentice? You need to find somebody who has a track record of learning, somebody who can take information and make decisions on their own, follow that critical path. So you're looking for those little nuggets in that background where they have demonstrated learning something new, right? So they have developed a new skill in a timely manner. Those are all the keys to make sure that they're teachable. If someone is not teachable, someone who can't learn something new, that's another red flag. You've got to be careful of that because if you want to be successful, I need people to learn my processes, but also be engaged to understand the why this process is important, what it does, what's the benefit, how does it help you, how does it help me, how does it help our customers, right? So it's understanding that whole sphere. So we're looking for people who are teachable with a track record of hard work and a track record of coming in all the time, right? Loyalty. Red flag number 3. You don't want people who are simply left my job, didn't get along with my last boss. That's a red flag. I, even if you didn't get along with your last boss, you're not going to put it on your resume, right? You're just going to say, hey, new opportunities, pursuing new opportunities. If you're putting it out there and you've been at a company 6 months and all of a sudden you don't get along with your boss and now you want to jump over to my company, that's not saying you're knocked out. That's simply saying I need more information. So these are not deciding factors. We're still on the background phase, right? We're just digesting a lot of information. Then we're going to score those backgrounds. So if I have 5 candidates and they have multiple backgrounds, I'm going to score them 1 through 5. I always use a 1 through 5 scoring system, right? So it's teachable, it's how many jobs have I had, and was there a motivating factor, right? It's motivation, what's in it for me, and are they teachable? Can they learn? Those are the 3 things I'm looking for in the background. I'm going to score those categories. Teachable, hey, he's maybe getting a 3 because I look at his background. He's got a little junior college. He had 2 jobs in a year. Looks like he went from the fry cook to the drive-through manager. That shows a progression of learning a new skill set, right? So he's going to get a 4 on there. And then what are his motivating factors he's looking for? This job will be a raise. He's going to make it a couple more bucks an hour. This job will provide better days off, right? These are motivating factors. This job will allow them to have free weekends or a flexible schedule or better daycare opportunities, right? That's that 3rd category. Why do they want to work here? Why do you want to work for me? Why are you going from this job to this job? 3 categories. You score them all 1 through 5 before you've even spoken to them. Then you get your interviews going. You let people pick their own interview times. You give them a parameter, right? Hey, we're going to do interviews Tuesday to Thursday. From these hours to these hours, what works for you? You reach out because that's part of the process. I'm looking for critical thinking skills. I want someone who's going to say, hey, great, I have the schedule. I know my calendar. Let me look. Hey, I can do it at 2 on Thursday because I work the other hours, right? I want that dialogue with that person as I'm lining up that interview. If I just say, come see us at 11 on Thursday, I've taken away the opportunity to learn something about that candidate and how organized they are. And can they quickly know their schedule or take a pause and look at their schedule to make sure they're free at that time, right? Those are skills that I'm learning about the interview process before I even started the interview. Good catch. Next, we want to bring people in. We're going to go through the interview process. Now, here's a key fact. Some of the best people I've ever hired had the worst interviews ever. So it's really important you think about the interview process as a win-win for both of us. Everybody we're interviewing, even if they're not our right candidate, is showing interest in coming to work for you and your dream and be part of your team. That's a huge compliment, and I really appreciate that when people want to work for me. So be polite, be respectful. Make sure that this is a positive experience for them no matter what the outcome. They go away feeling like they had a great opportunity to meet you and talk about your company themselves and they have a good feeling about it. You don't want anyone to ever go into an interview and walk away with like, I don't know how that went. That was really bad. I don't feel like that person really got me. I don't really feel like they care about me. Not only could you be walking away from a great employee, but now all their friends, family, relatives, anybody they ever speak to the rest of their lives can hear this story about what a negative experience that interview was, and you're losing customers and potential future customers. So you want to make sure every interview is an experience be positive. And you want to make sure you start your interview saying, hey, this is as much an opportunity for me to interview you as it is for you to interview us, right? This candidate's never worked for me before. They've never worked for my company before. They want to ask questions. They want to be involved. It's a two-way interview. So make sure you go in with that mindset so that you get to know them and hear the questions they ask. And also they can make a really good decision. I want them to make a decision that's best for them and their family or their goals in life. Not just, oh, great, cool, I got a job, thanks. Right? So let them ask questions, be engaged, and foster an atmosphere where they feel comfortable asking questions and they feel like it's a two-way interview and they will go away with a positive experience. Trust me. Positive, focused, win-win interview is the key to success. So we're going to go in and we're going to ask questions. Now, I can think of a million questions. Questions should be very specific, though, to give them the opportunity to give you specific answers. So think about, what's the situation? What's the action you took? And what was the result of your action on the situation? So think about breaking that down, though. But make them realistic questions. Right? Don't ask a question that has absolutely nothing to do with anything in your industry or theirs. Be kind of specific. Talk about a time, maybe if they worked at a restaurant, let's talk about hey, tell me about a time on a big holiday where you were short staffed but really busy. And how did that make you feel? And what did you do to get through that day? How did you get through that day? Right? Bring back memories. Everybody's got a short staff story, especially since COVID. There's always short staff. People like to call out sick like multiple vacations. It's just life now. So that's a question they can all answer. You're looking for, what did they do in the impact? If it's just, it was really busy that day and my boss asked me to stay, so I said, okay, right? Not a good answer. That's not going to be a great score. What I'm trying to get out of them is their personal impact. Wow, it was so busy that day. Ooh, we had like 40 tables going, right? And there's only two of us trying to cover everything. So I helped the bus guys do that in between picking up orders so we could get the tables cleared quicker and we could have better service for our customers. And then my manager was like super happy and he thanked me. And I said, hey, I can see a little longer, right? I'm looking for their impact on the situation, not their response to the situation. There's a difference. Responding to something is just how it impacted them. What did they do about it? What was their impact on the situation? It's going to give me enlightenment when I write down some answers. And take notes. Remember, eye contact, take some notes, write some things down. Bullet point. Don't write novels. Don't try and write down every word they say. Just bullet point some notes so that you can digest this later, because key fact, we're not going to make any hiring decisions during the process of the interview, right? We're going to get done with all the interviews before we even think about it so that you don't allow your predetermined gut instincts. And we know the rule number one, the gut always lies. Don't let that take control of the interview. It's like, oh, I really like this guy's tie. Good hair. I hire this guy. I like the way he talked in the interview. But you got to look at his background too. Remember, it's 2 scores to make sure you get the best candidate. So we're going to go through the questions. We're going to ask the same 5 questions. I like 5. 3's the minimum. I like 5. It really gives people an opportunity to talk, because a couple of the questions they may have no idea how to answer, but there may be one question they're really focused on. Make sure you ask questions around what their impact on their job was. Make sure you think about questions on your type of work, or a time they've worked on different shifts, or if you're asking them to take a position which is going to be meticulous with very attention to detail, like doing inventories. Talk to them, ask the question around inventories. Let's talk about a time you had to manage multiple SKUs or products, right? Share that with me. What was your process? What were your steps? How did you impact that? Make sure you ask the same questions of every candidate so it's a blank and fair slate and they can provide you feedback. Once you get done with all the questions, then you sit down, hopefully with the other person you're doing the interview with. You should always do it with like 2 or 3 people. Try not to do them by yourselves. I recommend never doing that, because your gut will start talking. You'll have a silent partner. It's always better to have someone there to bounce ideas back and forth across, right? A cadence to help make everyone more comfortable. Then you sit down and you rack and stack the questions as they wrote, just like they did with the backgrounds 1 through 5. Just give a point for each answer, and then an overall score on how did they set the room. I call it the feeling question or the communication question, right? How was their communication? How was their eye contact? If they're dealing with me, can they deal with my customers? Did I feel comfortable? Were they comfortable, right? Because if they're going to be at a sales position selling cars, I need to make sure they're comfortable in the setting. So I score the background, I score the questions, then I sit down and I rack and stack all the scores. Then I make a determination the next day. It's like going grocery shopping when you're hungry. You need an employee. You don't make the decision right during the interview process. Sleep on it. Next day, sit down, go through your notes again, make a decision, contact the employee. One key fact here: reach out to everyone you did not select personally, right? Whether you're going to phone them or call them. Don't text. Texting is a modern form of graffiti. It's great for saying, hey, how was the weekend? The score of the Warriors game. Not really good for clear, good communication. So always call or email. Make sure you let those know, hey, I really appreciate you applying for my company. It was a great meeting you. At this time, we're going to go a different direction, but I really appreciate our time together, and I wish you nothing but the best, right? Make sure you leave it on a positive experience. Reach out to the candidate you're making the offer to with a phone call. They're going to be excited. They're waiting. Don't just send them an email. When the person you're actually going to hire, that's a phone call. And you say, hey, thank you, welcome to the team. I am so excited to have you on the team. Here are the next steps. Be prepared with the backgrounds or the drug screens, whatever your next steps are. Make sure you got all that together. I know it's a lot. I talk fast. I believe that having the right people on your team and developing their skills is how all businesses, hardware store, liquor store, I don't care what it is, you can be successful when you have the right team. And then as you build that team, developing their skills through processes and practices which get results so that people have a win-win feeling and they want to be somewhere, they don't just have to be somewhere, is the key to all business success. Having the right people with the right focus, understanding your dream, and they're part of the big picture. I'm going to share a lot of videos just about some best practices of finding people, building a team. How do we go through critical paths as far as corrective action and discipline? How do we turn your worst employee into your MVP? There's a lot of cool things out there that I want to share with you that most smaller businesses don't get the opportunity that I've had with a lot of training and dealing with big companies. I want to share those best practices with you. So if you like them, give me a follow. I'm going to try and post just a bunch of videos. Nothing in it for me, just sharing some best practices.